right now is Professor Maninder Agarwal from IIT Kanpur. Now, he is the person who has been predicting the number and the rise in cases that we're likely to see in the third wave of the pandemic. Professor Agarwal, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us on Republic TV. My first question to you, how do you see this third wave and when do you expect it to peak, and what are the kind of numbers that we are likely to see?
So the data for India that we have is still not sufficient for us to make a reasonably accurate prediction. So at the moment, what we can say is that the peak for India is likely to arrive by the end of this month. And the numbers would range somewhere between 4 to 8 lakh cases per day. But now with the revised guidelines of ICMR, the numbers that get reported are likely to come down.
Right. Now, Professor Agarwal, what we are seeing currently, of course, is that Delhi and Mumbai are the ones that are peaking sooner. So give us a sense of what we are expecting in the big metros, particularly Delhi and Mumbai.
So Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, these three metros are peaking roughly at the same time in just next few days. And the reason is that the third wave started earlier in these cities. So they are farther down the line. Most of the other places, the numbers are just started climbing.
Right, and how do you see this peak to move? Because as you yourself pointed out, Mumbai traditionally we've seen in the past two waves has also, led the country in terms of the number of cases coming in. Then it spread slowly to other parts of the country. So when do you really expect it to end perhaps the third wave in India as a whole, and how do you see it ending?
So one key characteristic of this wave has been that the very sharp rise in numbers. And whenever there is a sharp rise, there is an equally sharp fall. So what is likely to happen is in these big metros like Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, by the end of this month already, the numbers will be almost negligible. And for India overall, we expect that by middle of March, the third wave will be over.
Mr. Agarwal, good morning. Samisha this side. We saw an unprecedented crisis unfold during the second wave. So is it an established fact now that Omicron variant is comparatively less severe than the Delta variant?
That is not clear. However, what is clear is that because of immunity in very large percentage of population in our country, either through vaccination or through previously acquired infection, our level of resistance is higher against Omicron, and therefore even if most of us get infected, the result is a mild infection. And that is why even with such large numbers in Delhi, Mumbai, we are not seeing such a crisis for hospital beds as there was in the second wave.
Right. Now, Professor Agarwal, you were talking us through the fact that the ICMR has changed certain guidelines, which essentially means that everybody who's in contact with a COVID positive patient does not have to get tested anymore. So how do you see impacting this in terms of absolute numbers? And do you view this as a good step?
So this is not going to change the nature of the curve. What it will do is it will just reduce the numbers by some factor. Now, what that factor is, we'll see with time, but everything will get scaled down a bit. But the curve trajectory or nature will more or less remain the same. And overall, I think it's a correct strategy in these times because the third wave, as I mentioned, is nearly everyone is extremely mild. The numbers there, on the other hand, are very large. So instead of spending resources in very large-scale testing, it may be better to focus these resources into treating those who really need this care, those with symptoms, those with a stronger or strict illness, which may require hospitalization and other care.
Right now, Professor Agarwal, as we enter this third wave, we are heading towards elections in about 4 states. Now, how do you see that impacting the model that you have generated? Do you see the numbers significantly higher because of the elections?
No, I don't think so. We actually analyzed the trajectory of the wave during the second wave for 5 states that held elections and 11 states that did not. And we did not find statistically any significant difference in these 2 groups of trajectories. So what that tells us is that it doesn't mean that the elections do not increase the spread. Of course they do, the public rallies and so on. Whenever a large number of people meet, it has an impact. However, if you just look at election as a factor and remove it, it is not going to make a significant difference in the trajectory because there are many other factors that cause the spread. So unless we control all the factors, it's not going to make a material difference.
That's right, Agarwal. I was just reading through the preliminary data. It suggests that Mumbai and New Delhi are likely to witness a peak in mid-January. Also, the data suggests that the peak wouldn't really linger beyond March. So, could you throw some more light on this? And does it somewhere allay concerns that the peak will not last that long and will comparatively be less severe as compared to the second wave?
So, the peak numbers are likely to be higher than second wave. However, the number of hospitalization cases are likely to be a lot less, which therefore means that our health infrastructure is unlikely to get overwhelmed. Of course, it still requires very careful monitoring and action. However, things are looking better compared to second wave, and that is almost entirely thanks to the vaccination drive that we could carry out at a very large scale, and also the effects of the second wave acquired immunity.
Right, absolutely. Professor Agarwal joining us this morning. Thank you very much for speaking to us on Republic TV and for clarifying that the second wave, though might have larger number of cases, it is expected to largely be milder. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.